The Daily Mail put out an article where they misrepresented a quote from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and they did it in a pretty shameless way. So they say she compared her surprise defeat of Joe Crowley, her former opponent, to the moon landing. She said it was an accomplishment, according to them, that was comparable to the moon landing. But the fact remains that she didn't actually do this. The Daily Mail wrote a clickbait headline that wants you to think she said something like this. It reads, Democratic Socialist wunderkind Ocasio-Cortez compares her election to landing on the moon and wiring America for electricity, saying, we've done what we thought was impossible. So presumably, if you read that headline, you think she said, well, look, we beat Joe Crowley. We did what we thought was impossible. They thought the moon landing was impossible, but they did that. And I also did something impossible by defeating Joe Crowley. It's the same thing. Moon landing, defeating Joe Crowley, same thing. The thing is that she's not actually saying that. And if she did say that, it'd be pretty cocky, but she didn't say that. They misrepresented the quote, and you don't even really have to go that far to find the actual quote and context for what she said, because it's in the article itself, in spite of what the headline wants you to believe. And what she was actually talking about was policy substance. She was talking about her Green New Deal plan and only cited incredible things that Americans previously did in order to dispel the notion that tackling climate change was somehow too ambitious or impossible. And here's what she said exactly, quote, we've done what we thought was impossible. We went to the moon. We electrified the nation. We established civil rights. We enfranchised the country. We dig deep, and we did it. We did it when no one else thought that we could. That's what we did when so many of us won an election this year. So she's talking about what we previously thought was impossible in the context of her Green New Deal. She's saying, look, we constantly somehow managed to do things that people say is impossible. So if we thought that the moon landing was impossible, if we thought that civil rights were impossible, well, why are we going to say that a Green New Deal is impossible? We keep proving them wrong. We've done it time and again, and we just did it again with this election. So, because she said the words election, that was reason for them to kind of strip away the context from that quote and attribute it to her basically tooting her own horn, essentially. When that's a really unfair thing to do. If you're going to cover her, you've got to give not only the context, but you've got to make it clear that this whole speech was about a Green New Deal. So obviously, this was nothing more than clickbait. Daily Mail probably knew what they were doing here. They're trying to gin up some type of controversy in order to make it seem as if Ocasio-Cortez was arrogant and, cocky and maybe even narcissistic. So that's why they misrepresented her quote here. So anyone who shared this essentially made it clear that they didn't read the article itself. And former Arkansas governor and failed presidential candidate Mike Huckabee was one of those individuals who shared the article along with a line that was supposed to be funny, I guess, that didn't even rise to the level of a dad joke, saying, Ocasio-Cortez compares her election to moon landing. Big difference. Moon landing was lunar, not loony. Moon landing done by people who knew what they were doing. Those who elected someone who thought there were 3 branches of Congress did not. Now, she saw what he said about her, and she decided to respond by ripping off his head and shitting down his neck. Metaphorically speaking, of course, because I don't want to misrepresent what actually happened, because I'm not the Daily Mail here. She said, a Green New Deal will take a level of ambition plus innovation on the scale of the moon landing. We've been done it before and can do it again. Leave the false statements to Sarah Huckabee. She's much better at it. Also, you haven't been a governor of any state for 10 plus years now.
How's it taste, motherfucker?
So not only did she take the time to dunk on Mike Huckabee, she dunked on his daughter as well. And that's a sensitive subject for him. For obvious reasons. It's his daughter, and everyone hates her because she is a serial compulsive liar. But she dunked on him and her, and she kind of did a little jab at the end there to let him know just how irrelevant he is. That was great. Ocasio-Cortez is great to me because she is, like a lot of millennials, perceived to be naive and in over her head. People say this about me as well, doing political commentary. I mean, you have to be old, which is what people believe, to have any wisdom or anything, but she's showing that she actually knows what she's talking about, and she's not going to fuck around. If you're going to talk shit, you better be prepared to get owned, because I think that it wasn't even a question. Even people who liked Mike Huckabee, if you go to the replies under his tweet, it was clear they know he got clowned by Ocasio-Cortez. So these old politicians, these irrelevant politicians, quite frankly, because Mike Huckabee is irrelevant, what they try to do is they try to own the libs or trigger the libs, whatever they're doing nowadays. I don't know what it is, but they're trying to own the libs by being condescending and arrogant and talking down to liberals, saying that they are stupid. And most of the time, it's female liberals. It's young liberals. So they think, oh, this is going to be easy. This is a cakewalk. Let me show these dipshits what it's really like, in politics. But they end up falling on their fucking face. Mike Huckabee face planted here in an attempt to make Ocasio-Cortez look dumb. Look, Fox News has been trying it, Mike Huckabee, and they're only boosting her profile and making her incredibly popular. So because conservatives are doing what they can to make Ocasio-Cortez a media phenomenon, the rest of the media is trying to compete with conservative outlets, and they're doing what they can to kind of boost her profile. But what they're realizing is that this is backfiring tremendously, because this is someone who's popular. This is someone who's representing the people. She speaks for millennials. She speaks for me. So you're not going to make her unpopular. You're helping her. So keep it up. I'm never mad when they go out of their way to criticize Ocasio-Cortez, even if what they're doing is really nefarious, even if they're disgusting and trying to smear her as someone who's unintelligent, because this is all working out in her favor. It's giving her more power, because having that media coverage and attention, even if it's negative, to a degree, it still gives her a little bit more political power and influence. And that's really important if we want someone fighting for us. So keep it up, because you are not helping your cause. And Mike Huckabee, of all people, shouldn't imply anyone else is loony when he himself is one of the biggest idiotic evangelical Republicans in the country.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.